In 3, 2, 1, here we are. Hello, everybody. Jess Claire here with the awesome Alexis, O'Neill, Corey.
What is up, guys? How are you?
If you are jumping on, I'm just going to check if you are on. We've had an issue with StreamYard tonight, so we've had to use one platform. How this doesn't work for me. So I'm just going to share it. I'm just going to share this across to, I'm going to share this to my group. If you are jumping on, please do say hello. Particularly while I do this. Here. I need to share it to your page too. You need to share this.
Yes, I'm going to share it in my group as well.
Are you doing that now?
Girl, I am on it.
You are on it. Okay. So who we got? Haley. Yeah. Say hello, Haley. I can't see who else is jumping on. I'm going to try and get this up here. But we've got Alexis O'Neill Corey. Why don't you introduce screen split? Okay. Everyone's like screen split. Okay, there you go. Why don't you introduce yourself? And thanks, Haley. Hello, Sarah, Steph. Introduce who you are.
Okay. So what's up, guys? My name is Alexis. I just wanted to say hello. Just have this. Let me shut this down really quick because I'm seeing all the notifications. So who am I? I am a fucking badass human is who I am. I am a self-empowerment coach. So I lead and guide people further within themselves in order to unlock their potential, their medicine, their gifts, so they can share it with the world, as well as my primary being a singer, songwriter, running a band, being an artist, and all that creative juju stuff.
Yeah.
That's it in a nutshell.
And visionary.
Yes, very visionary. I could tell you there's a lot of things that I've created in talking about, musical alchemy and just being able to bring creativity into everyday life and bringing this medicine. And that's why I wanted to actually talk to you, is because a lot of the times in the spiritual community, I feel like everything can be really disconnected to what it is that we need to do on a daily basis, which is bringing people home, right? But doing that in an everyday context. So being able to be a visionary, take the creativity, bring that into everyday life is really, really important to me. So.
Yeah, and as well as deal with just how human you are. Right?
It's fucking brutal.
I know, right?
Brutal.
Oh, I can't wait to get into this. For you guys who are watching, Alexis and I spoke right before, and she's like, I'm in the middle of this. Like, this has just happened in my family. I've come out only 3-4 months ago. And it's like, she's like, I can't believe this is even happening. Why is this even a conversation? I don't even understand. Let's get this on air, babes. But it's so raw. That's what I do. You know who I am. So we wanted to talk about
it is raw.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to acknowledge Kayla and Lisa and Donna, Lorna, who are jumping on. Please do say hello. Please do join us in this conversation. It's a bit more boring that it's, Zoom, but here we are. Back on the Zoom platform. I haven't been on the Zoom platform in ages. But so tell us, when I said the most conservative of family, this is really weird to me. I mean, I came out like what? I'm 18, 20 years ago. Man, 20 years ago.
Oh, shit.
I almost even forget that there's this label called lesbian. And I'm just going to be really funny, because I happen to like touching other people's vaginas, that I get a label.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say that. People will hate that I said that. I thought it was funny.
Okay.
Anyway, because at some point that happened, I get this label, which is only this very small part of me, and I forget that it even exists. And then I meet you and, you've only come out like 4 months ago and you're like in the middle of it, right?
Which was such a process. I have to tell you, like the amount of sheer denial. I know you might not remember, but the amount of sheer denial and internal torture that was as an experience for myself, for someone who's pretty, like, I'm fairly open and in tune, and like it was just it was a grieving process. It was grieving one identity to step into a new one, and then realizing that the new one shouldn't even, I hate using the word shouldn't, but doesn't even have to be an identity, that's so closely attached to a way of being. So it's been a minute.
Yeah.
Just like, yeah.
Yeah. And as you got on, you're like, what did you say? Why is it even a question? Why is my dad doing this? Why is my mom doing this? I don't understand, right?
Yeah. It's like, why is it even a fucking conversation? It just seems so commonplace to me. It's like, you love who you love, and that's it. And, we're just in this skin suit, and whether we're male or female, it's like, cool, those are the body parts, but what does that even matter? So just the sheer fact that I had to wait for the right time to present this as who I am, or a part of who I am, because of fear that it wouldn't be accepted. Like, those are some of the things I was like, oh my God, my mother's not going to love me anymore. She's not going to talk to me. She's going to be like, go fuck off. And that was a real thing. Like, I'm saying it laughing now, but it was not laughing matter, some time ago, because it was very, very painful to take a look at, all of my greatest fears as far as human connection when it comes to my family. They just all came to the surface.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've got a few fans on here. Illigopta, say hello. Chrissy, Sigourney has just said, hey, Alex.
What's up? What's going on, ladies?
Could you possibly tilt your vision that way so you can go right?
You want me to see this way?
Yeah. Now you're nice and big.
Better. Okay.
So much better.
There we go. Cool.
And so I came out 20 years ago. I have a Mormon family, very conservative Mormon family, Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. I call them the Church of Cheese and Rice and Rattle Day Snakes, right?
Oh,
they find that funny. They seem to allow me to get with my humor. But similar to you, when I first came out, I just ignored them. I didn't even talk to them. I was like, oh, I'm not even going to bother. You're really religious. You think I'm going to hell. My brother found out and said that my eyes were going to get gouged out by locusts. I was like, oh, that's a positive future to look into. It was like, I was so overwhelmed. I just tapped out. Right.
Yeah.
Now at some point, and I'd be interested to hear what you say, and anyone else who wants to join in this conversation as well, is at some point I started on my journey of personal development, right? And I actually I don't know what I was, but I got that what I could do is tell them how afraid I was of sharing my life with them since I became a lesbian. I didn't become a lesbian, I just was. And I happened to, get all the feels when I'm around these really great, good-looking women, and then just happens. But they call this lesbian, right? And I shared it with them, and I noticed that when I told them that vulnerability, and I was like, I don't even think that I can be around you anymore because I'm afraid of your judgment. They were like, oh, we're not judging you. We think you're judging us. It was so interesting. Then I talked to my brother and I said I was afraid of losing him as a brother, and he's been great ever since. And I sort of just went through my whole family, right? But what I shared with them was how scared and afraid I was that they wouldn't see me as just a human being anymore because I seemed to be in love with and have feels for women. Yeah.
That hits home, because that was the biggest fear that I had, was that they weren't going to love me or appreciate me for who I am and what I actually bring to the world anymore because of that fact. And I remember speaking to my mom, and she actually asked me, she's like, so can I ask you a question? And I was like, sure. She's like, you know, because remember, we're in COVID now, right, at the time. And I'm like, how do I break this to mom that I just moved to England to be with this woman? Like, when is an appropriate time to, like,
I mean, this could go
really,
on years. So.
Yeah. And after, you know, it's what really came up for me. I was like, after 17 years worth of drug addiction and like heavy fucking traumatic events that I had to drag my family through as well, I'm like, how are we going to add this to the table? You know, because I knew it was going to be a this, although it's not a this to me. I knew coming from an Italian Catholic family from New York, that's like, you know, my mom prays novenas to Mother Mary. You know what I'm saying?
Italian Catholic, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, how am I going to break this? And sure enough, it's like, you know, God does for us what we can't do for ourselves. So my mom came to me and she was like, so Alexis, I want to ask you a question. I'm like, yes, mom. She's like, why do you want me to like Morgan so much? Because we were back and forth, you know, FaceTiming in the middle of COVID. We're stuck in the apartment. They're stuck at home FaceTiming. And
Morgan's your partner,
Yes.
Yeah.
She's amazing. She's just incredible. And I'm so glad. It's funny. The other day, side note, I went in the bathroom and I was smoking a cigarette and I was like, you fucking created this. And I was looking out at the London streets, like I said, being from New York. And I just went back in bed and I gave her a kiss and I was like, I fucking created that beautiful love and that reality in my existence now. So super cool. But side note, mom was like, why do you want me to like Morgan so much? And I was like, well, and it was I remember it all coming up. And I was like, well, I love Morgan and she's my partner. And I had been talking behind the scenes with different friends, coaches, healers, all that kind of stuff, like about not knowing how to bring that into conversation. And it was brought to me. And so I was able to have that. And my mom was I have to say, she was very good about it. She didn't really give me a sense of judgment, but there was a sense of disappointment. And she did say, you know, I don't understand it, you know, and it really goes against my beliefs. She said, but I accept you. I love you. You're my daughter. And I was like, it was like a mixed feeling and a mixed response I had to that. Because again, it just doesn't feel like it should be a thing to me at all. You know, the fact that I had to have fear to be myself to my own family, whereas I can show up online and I can share many of the different facets of myself with my online community. Yet the closest to home, there's this, you know, this fear of judgment, or somebody's going to leave me or abandon me or not love me anymore because I'm not living life according to what their belief system is.
Yeah. 100%. And I think this is a really great discussion. This is why, you know, I said, do you want to talk about? And you're like, we're going to talk about this. Because, you know, I kind of think we're sort of, I don't know, maybe it's the circles I hang out with. I don't know. I'd be curious to see what people say. You know, what is it? You know, Morningstar says, I forgot what sexuality a person is. I see people as people. I mean, I do too. I forget that I have one. I'm like just being me. Right. Other people give it labels. I, you know, right now I think the label that's more appropriate is someone I'm just like really bad at relationships. But I'm like I'm healing my inner child so that I can
intimately challenged.
I think I'm really intimate. I think I'm adorable, but it turns out I'm a pain in the ass. So that's far more of a label I'm at work on, but other people have said, who cares what people think, be happy. Of course, judgment divides people, of course. So,
and Jen, we know this though, but here's the piece, like we know this inside of these communities. That's great. But what about outside? Like that's the whole idea. So when I talk about even coaching in general, it's like blending the two together. Like the world needs what we have within these communities and how we approach things and how we deal with things and the non-judgmentalness although there is that within the community as well. I'm not saying that there's not, but being able to blend those things together into the 3D people, like the 3D reality of everyone walking around outside, like they also need to hear these messages.
Yeah.
And that's why they are valid and they are important, because not everyone has access to what we have access to in tribes, communities, circles, you know, all the stuff that we get to do and have that opportunity for. Some people are just being introduced to that and need to hear these things and need to know it's okay and need to know that, do you know what I'm saying? Like whatever's going on in their life, there's a space for it and there's a way to overcome it and speak about it and be your fucking self. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's actually really important because, like I said, it's such a no-brainer for me. And for you, you're like, oh my God, this is, you know, it's a no-brainer. But actually there's still like, I remember as an 18-year-old, the vulnerability of not, like your family's everything. And you've got a few friends, but you're just sort of building a community, right? You haven't really been in life that long to go and expand that way. And social media has made it really a lot easier, but still there's some real difficult things with social media. So as a young person, they're really grappling right now because, you know, you got this potential to kind of be really on your own, much higher incidence of suicide and depression. COVID has made that even worse, you know.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, whilst this is a no-brainer conversation for me and you, really, because you're like, oh, I'm going through it, but come on. Like, come on. We've got bigger fish to fry on this planet now, like human trafficking, a global disease. Come on, who gives a fuck about someone's sexuality, really? Like that's what I come back to. But in saying that, everyone's going and walking, like you just pointed to it, everyone's walking their own experience. So whilst there are people that are doing some great things in ending human trafficking, there are people out there that you and I are like, here we are who we are. I even forgot. And you're going through it only 4 months in. It's still like a no-brainer for you. And people need to hear this conversation because it still matters. Like it still matters if there's one person that needs to hear this.
Yeah, and I think that the piece that sometimes is easy to forget is that the individual makes up the collective. So we talk about the collective consciousness, but what is that made of? You know, and it's like one heart at a time, one person's mind that we can influence or impact. I know those are egoic words, whatever, but it's really true. Like it's, you know, my connection with you. And that's even talking about that. I remember seeing you on Kezia's page and being like, oh my God, there's a lesbian in self-development. I just came out. Oh my God, I want to know her. That's amazing. You know, because you were open about that.
I know.
And that's important. And because it's like, you want people that you can identify with, to be friends with, to lead you, to guide you, to support you. How else are you going to know if people aren't sharing every part of themselves? You're not going to know.
You're not. Actually, this is great. I met another one of us today. There's another lesbian in self-development. I was very excited. There's at least 3 of us now. If you are a lesbian in self-development, apart from acknowledging who you are, and you're in Brisbane, I definitely want to go on a date with you. Just saying, ask what you want. You're taken, so you know I acknowledge that. I totally get it. I'm. It's like finding your tribe, right? And one heart at a time is a really great way of looking at it. So how do you do that? How do you fully express and be who you are? I mean, I keep going. How do you own your sexuality? How do you do that? How do you do that in a family that is conservative? How do you be yourself, show up as yourself, and do all of that in this?
In this situation, I feel like what's helped me the most is being honest and answering. And I don't know if there's a right or a wrong to this, but this is what I have been doing, is speaking what it is. When I'm asked a question, I tell the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it is. That was very uncomfortable for me to answer the question in the way that I did. but it was also the truth. You know, like when my mother asked me, like, why do you want me to like Morgan so much? It's because I love her and she's my partner. And then came more questions. And I was very patient with my mother in answering all of her questions. I remember she called me like 2 hours later, you know, asking me some more questions. And the next day had some more questions. And yesterday had some more questions. And it's still very uncomfortable and it's still very new. And quite honestly, I felt the same way that you felt. I feel this resistance to really, the reason why I shared it with my mom is because I wanted her to be a part of the joy that I have, excuse me, today too. So she was part of all of this, you know, disastrous living for such a long time for me. And now it's like, wow, like my life is finally starting to come together, like business wise, friendship wise. I have like the best fucking friends in the world. You know what I mean? Heart-centered people all around me. I am a heart-centered person. I have a heart-centered partner who is literally God-given. I can't share this joy because of something like that. And so that became really a big piece of that, being able to share that with her. And yeah, it's like touch and go, you know, very uncomfortable. My father and my sister still don't know. I believe all my cousins know because they're always watching my stuff online. So they've been very gracious.
They will now. Shall we tag them? Just in case there was any.
Imagine just tag the whole family. It's like a 2020 way of coming out. Just tag everyone. Go live.
Very, very Ellen DeGeneres. I'm gay. Yes. I and look, I say it like I did that, right? I'll give you an example of my experience in my family, right? So they're all Mormon. I'm one of 8. My stepmom, who raised me from when I was 4, she's got 5 sisters. They've all got between 9 and 11 children. So there's this massive like 50 bang of these people, like just like so many kids everywhere, and we're all around the same age. And I'm the only lesbian. I'm like, I'm sure that we should have a few more statistics in here, but based on numbers, but not. No, just me. And so, and they're all religious, except for me and my brother, Joseph, and pretty much everyone else are like full into it, right? Their religion. And so I was an outcast. Like I went, okay, I'm like hanging out with my girlfriend. I even called my first girlfriend Emily Kevin. I even didn't tell everyone that it was her, and I used to call her living with Kevin, and then I wouldn't let anyone, you know, go into my house.
Oh, wow.
Not really living authentically back then. And then eventually I'm like, actually, I live with Emily and this is my partner. And what I did was I said to my dad, hey, I sent him an email. I said, hey, Dad, I just wanted to let you know that Emily's actually my partner. I was really, really clear that I didn't want to use labels. Like I even now don't say I'm a lesbian so much. I do if it have fun with it, but I mostly say I'm into women, and my partner's a woman, and my ex-partner was a woman. You know, because that's real for me. And I put that in there in the email. I just said, Dad, I just want you to let you know, actually, there is no Kevin. There's Emily. And Emily and I'm in love with her, and I'm not letting you know this because I want your approval or I want you to be okay. I'm just letting you know because I suppose you're my dad and you should know that this is who I am. And take care. I'm not after your response. I'm just kind of letting you know.
Well, you're better than me because I definitely still with all the work done to this day, still wanted my mom's approval.
Right.
I still did. I could say that, you know, honestly, it's not like I had reached some spiritual plateau and like I no longer wanted it. I think that's been a big part of it, to be honest, you know, that I did want my family's approval. You want, not you per se, but I do. And I'm sure many other people feel the same way. You just want to be loved for who you are, you know, and approved of.
Absolutely. Look, I think I did. I think I'm just super strategic. And I went, I think I just went about it. You know, I don't know. I'm
like a business email.
I'm just going to like play, like, I don't know. I don't need your approval anyway. Here you go.
Fine.
Kind of like resisting that I was going to get it anyway. And even when I had kids and I told Dad that we were pregnant with kids, right? He goes, I don't agree with that. And I even, in that moment, I went, wouldn't have asked your approval anyway. It was like, and he's like, I was like, yeah, that's right. I didn't want it.
Oh my God.
So I don't know. I think it was more a resistance to not getting it. I don't know that there was much power behind it, but it worked in terms of, holding it. It kept me strong, but underneath it,
right.
of course, of course I wanted it. Of course, if I could have for everyone the beautiful response that I would have for my children, for everyone, right? Hello, Katie. I would love to have my dad to wrap me up and say, honey, as long as you're happy.
Right.
I love the idea of having that. I would have loved, my mum just freaked out. She was so beautiful. She's like my biggest activist. She's an overactivist. So she just went, oh, has anyone been mean to you? I'll fucking kill him.
Oh my God. That's really
so she's great. And then she walks into a hairdresser and goes, my daughter's a lesbian. If you don't like lesbians, I'm not getting my hair cut here.
Oh my Lord.
I'm like, Mum, chill. We don't even need to talk about it. It's fine.
That's cute though.
It is.
That's nice that she's like that.
So yeah, I don't know. I think I might have just resisted it. And now I think, when I really feel into it, like feel it, it's like there's so much rejection in this world. There's so much experience. It's not real, but there's so much of this experience of you're not okay unless. So much conditional, whether it's our opinions, our sexuality, our expression, how we show up, how we talk, what we think, what we've experienced. There's just so much you're not okay unless.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest piece of why I really wanted to speak about it, because when I remember when the first post that I actually wrote, like people reached out and really were confused about their sexuality. Genuinely. Like women that were like, yeah, well, I always liked women, but I was afraid to experiment, but like, all of that kind of stuff. And so by sharing about these things and letting people know it's okay to be whatever you think may be unacceptable to others, it's still okay to be that. And it's okay to go through your journey and have a process with it. And I really feel like there's not enough service done by spiritually bypassing everything. And I'm not saying because you said it, but I know this goes on, by spiritually bypassing everything as if it's not real. Well, guess what? Like, it's part of the human existence. We are in a human fucking container. Like, it may not be real per se when, you're ascended, right? But it's like, we're dealing with this and other people are dealing with it. So if we don't learn how to deal with it, we're not going to be able to lead other people through it. And so that's something that interests me, and why I was like curious. I'm like, oh, I started asking, all my gay friends, like, what was your process like coming out? What did it feel like? Did you know? Because I can tell you, I didn't know. I legitimately had the LGBT, like the rainbow flag at the end of my bed over it, doing drag shows every fucking week, quietly like checking out women, and having it in the deep recesses of my mind, like, what's wrong with me? Am I like a freak? Like, why am I doing this? I don't quite understand why I think women are more beautiful than men, yet I've been with men my whole life. Why is that?
You're not the only one. Like, the person that I've dated fairly recently, it felt the same. Just thought about it for a long time, but never felt comfortable, and was like, the imagination of it was so vivid, and it was like it lived in non-physical, but it was never lived in reality.
Yeah, and even when I did live it in reality over the years, it was like did I only do that because I was high? Because I was also a really stone cold drug addict for like 17 years of my life. So I was able to put that off on it. Like, oh, when I was high, or oh, when I was drunk, or oh, when I was in high school, whatever it was. And then I also had to look at being molested as a child, you know, by a female. And so I didn't know, like, there were all these different working pieces that I was trying to somehow figure out, you know, in my mind and drop into of the reasons why. And then I was told, like, you don't need to know why, and you don't need to label yourself anything, and like, it's okay.
Yeah, it just is. This is what I've had so many, so maybe some things just are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when people go, why do you think you're a lesbian? I don't know. Why is the sky blue? It just is that way, right?
Oh.
Why?
Yeah, and
why are you having these thoughts about women and feeling this way about women? You know, and the fact that you question it, this is what I find incredible about humanity. We have these things that are important to us. Like, it's really important for me to be in a really conscious, really loving, very, very much driven by integrity, ownership, and lust. I'm putting that in there. Okay, I'm very clear. It's going to be lust. It's definitely going to be lust. So I'm very clear that's what I want, right? Very conscious relationship. Now, I don't know why I want that. I just do. I can't, like, I don't know why it's so important to me. People are like, oh, why can't you just be on your own? I was like, I can. I've demonstrated that for a long time. But I don't want to be. Why? I don't know. Because I don't. You know, there doesn't have to be
it's at the core of humanity, though. You know what I mean? Like, I see a lot of things being challenged today, and I understand that. And I've done the by myself thing too. And it's cool, and I can manage it. And I travel to lots of places, and I see lots of fun people and meet cool, epic humans all over the world. Great. But there's something about being in connection to someone else and learning. My experience has been, I've learned so much about myself by being with a partner intimately. You know, it is the greatest mirror and teacher that you can have. I'm still constantly, like, last night, I was like triggered. I was like, oh, fuck. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm just able to look at myself. Hold on, it's London. Let me close the window. Give me a second.
Yeah.
London!
I didn't think that. It helps your evolution. A lover unlocks a part of your soul you never got fun. Yeah, look, I'm not discounting or saying any of these are valid. These are really valid explanations. Katie just said, someone once told me, why is a very disempowering question. It's actually an interesting, I say, why is like farting in a hurricane? I don't know that I don't know it really makes much of a difference, you know? It's like everything you say is going to be something you're making up anyway. You just guided. Like, there's just guided. I'm just like,
it's something that just is, right? Like, the majority of everything, if not everything, is. But as a human being, in my own life, I can't speak for everyone, but in my own life, I've tried to make sense of things in order to bring myself some comfort.
Yeah.
Right? In like, okay, maybe this happened because of this, you know? And I think the question, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think having sexually been abused by a woman, I get that would bring a lot into question for you. Yeah. I actually get that. I get you'd have to understand why.
I was like, wait a second, let me make sure, because I did not want to drag another human being into whatever it was that I was going through before I was sure that that's what it was.
Yeah.
You know? And because that's just, I don't know, that's how I live today. I don't want to fucking drag somebody else through the mud, not knowing if it's like a trauma-based response to something or an actual, you know, genuine desire and a belief of mine that's new that I didn't know I had.
Yeah.
You know, like, I didn't think it was okay or acceptable. And I remember it was crazy. I was just telling Morgan about this. I remember speaking to my former partner and being like, you know, one day I'm going to leave you for a woman. Like, all of these things. No, but it's crazy. Like, if I look back on my whole experience, even as a child, and I don't know if you had this, but I've heard of this happening for little boys. I remember looking at my mom's magazines of women. It was like Victoria's Secret magazine. And then she had this one book of like Diana Ross, right? So super vivid, but being a little girl, like 5, 6, 7, I couldn't tell you what exact age, and being curious, but then stifling it.
Oh, I
just stifling.
I totally get it. I was making out with girls when I was 7.
Okay, so you get it.
You get it. In cupboards. I was like, I don't know. I wasn't interested in the boys. I didn't make out with boys. I was 7. Okay. I was cutting off the hair to my Barbies and making them drag kings.
Oh my God.
I don't even know where I saw it. I
want a drag queen Barbie.
Yeah, I don't even know where I saw it. I was in a religious family, making out with girls, making my Barbies, the women get it on and the men get it on. There was no Ken and Barbie. There was Ken and Ken. There was Barbie and Barbie. Right? I'm sorry.
Great. That's very progressive for today's world. That would fit right in. That's amazing. But oh my God.
I didn't know why I was feeling like this. All I knew is that my family were religious, and so they didn't agree, and so I hid it. So I'd literally get in the cupboard and I'd like have my Barbies making out with each other on my own, like so no one could see, right? And I look back on that now and I'm like, I was so gay. There is no conditioning in that. That was a force. That was something that was far beyond me.
Yeah, and I think that's it, because that's what I was trying to figure out. If it was a piece of conditioning, it was a trauma-based response or whatever it was, or this was actually how I felt.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful. Like, just thinking about it now, like I just get so overcome with emotion, because I'm just so grateful that I was able to come out of that, because it was really quite frightening. And like I said, I know it's a long time ago for you, but it really, really was quite frightening and confronting.
It hasn't been long at all for you. And
no.
I want to acknowledge Becky Bauer has just jumped on this live. I don't know if you're still there, Becky.
Hi,
Please
Becky.
say hello. Becky Bauer is the pastor of the All-Inclusive Church in Melbourne.
Oh, that's awesome.
She, so she's the pastor of an all-inclusive church, which has got like everyone in it. And so she's super cool. The only one in, from what I understand, she could probably correct me if I'm wrong, but the only one in Australia. And she spoke at one of my events. She was amazing. So yes, just wanted to acknowledge that in terms of
cool.
making real waves in terms of inclusivity and people of the LGBTIQ plus community. Yeah, she's doing great things in that, particularly religious community, people that want to still be religious and be LGBTIQ plus.
Yeah, which is amazing, because it's not, for me personally, I would consider myself more spiritual than particularly defining myself by one set religion. However, I think it's really important to have those conversations. And I know my former background is in education. And so the last school that I was working in was very LGBT progressive, what we call progressive, friendly within the Department of Education in New York. And that was something that was really important, because they had meetings for the kids to ask questions. I believe every school in New York City now has an advocate that has to be present on staff, and there has to be like a designated room where children can go to ask those questions, because that's another thing. When I was you talk about being raised in a conservative family, we weren't talking about sex. We weren't talking about sexuality. We weren't talking about none of that. That was like the stuff you put under the carpet and you figured out later on by either learning from a friend, learning on TV, usually somebody that was a little bit faster than you in the same age group, and you just figured it out. But for kids today to be able to talk about this within a school setting with somebody that's licensed and professional is really important. I think about, if I would have had support like that, could it have been different? Not that it would have. What we know spiritually, everything happens in perfect divine timing, but giving people an opportunity to explore those things and know that they're safe.
Absolutely. Katie's just said something interesting. She said,
Yeah.
from the ages of 5 to 10, I was sexually exploring with all my girlfriends. Okay, maybe it wasn't just me. That age, I had no interest in boys whatsoever. Also, I wasn't aware of gay or straight labels. It felt natural to explore our bodies and pleasure together. Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think Katie identifies as a lesbian either. So maybe that could see, this is the case. The reason I grow up, I fall in love with a woman, or I have these feelings for women, right? And then I look back and think, why? Oh, it must have been because of that and that. Maybe all my mates were doing it. I don't know. We were all hiding it from each other. I don't know. You know, it seems quite natural and normal. We have, I mean, we could talk about this now. There's this energy inside of us that, I mean, from the work that I've been doing more recently and the body work and the somatic work, we are full of sexual energy. It's the energy of creation. It's creation energy. It's what, you know, when we get that burst of inspiration and creativity and that initial drive, that is sexual energy. You know, in some books, they call that sexual transmutation, is the ability to take that energy and put it into a mission or a cause, right? And some people call it life force, whatever you're going to call it. Our ability to actually be with that energy is really important in life. And in the early stages, it's like, how do you deal with it? It's a massive energy, right? So you're a kid having all this energy, and you're like, okay, I'm going to go out and make out with my mates and do stuff. Like, you don't know what to do with it. You got to learn.
No, but think about that. As a child, though, we're also, at least I was way active as a child. I was on a million different like sports teams, doing modeling, singing, acting, horseback, like you name it. I was in a class, a group for it, a team for it. So all of that was able to be expressed a little bit better for me. And now it's like there's two choices, right? Well, no, there's more than two choices. What am I talking about? It's so limiting. Whether I'm like, wait a second, like take that back. No way, not two choices. But when I think about it, using that sexual energy to create, right? So whether it's creating a song, going into the studio. Last night I was up creating, it was so funny. I was doing some branding work and trying to put together the files and this and that and sending it over to the lady I'm working with. And I was like, oh, babe, I was like, do you mind? And she was like, no, it keeps you quiet. That's great. I'm always working. But, you know, whether it's working, creating a post or it's actually having sex, that energy gets to bring us, you know, what it is that we need to share with the rest of the world. It's not a bad thing. It's not a taboo thing. It's not something that's disgusting, but we've just been conditioned so much to shame sex, shame our body, shame what it is that's going on with us. So it needs to be a conversation, because that's the work, Jess, that has changed my life. It was the tantra work. It's the emotional clearing. It's the embodiment work where you're like gut wrenched, want to fucking like, oh my God. And then you actually are able to like release all of the shit.
Yeah.
That's the work that has revolutionized my life. That's the work.
That stuff's that has absolutely, like, I've done 6 years of transformational training in what I'd call, you know, really mind oriented transformation in language, communication, transformation, that sort of stuff. And I thought that I knew it all, man. Like, I was like, this is the bomb. Communication, everything happens in language. It's all made up, la, la, la. Then I went into somatic work, and someone has just said this. I wonder what this would have been like if we taught this at school. I know, right? An energy work.
Oh my God, that would be amazing.
Imagine if we're doing self-pleasure practice at school, right? And for those of you that don't know what self-pleasure practice, it's not what it sounds like, can be, but it's not what it sounds like. It's actually you providing pleasure to your own body the way that you want it, and it's touch, right? It's not sexual, except it goes there because everyone hears pleasure and they always think having sex or something, but it's not what I'm talking about. But self-pleasure, where you teach yourself how to provide yourself the touch and pleasure that you want from another person. I mean,
even hugging yourself, something as simple as that.
The other day, my practice was I've broken up with someone recently, and I laid on the floor and I was like, this is really sad, you know. I gave myself a hug. Right? You know, imagine. And when I did this work, I went, the energy that flows through us when we really get present to us is like, it's immeasurable. And the creativity that it brings up. So, of course, you're going to be able to have thoughts about anything and everything. Like, that's why I'm just going to call it out. Everyone has thoughts about the dirtiest sex ever.
Of course, yeah.
I don't care how religious you are. If anyone religious is watching this, I know you have dirty thoughts. You know, you do. Don't lie. You just repress it. You're just like, I can't have those thoughts.
Yeah.
But it's creative. Of course, that energy brings up the most creative sides of life. Like, it's what creates things like, you know, Elon Musk and the ideas that he's had. It's this energy is creative. So, of course, it's going to be sexually creative as well.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to act on everything it thinks.
No, and I think that's the piece, because if we've done, I've too done mindset work as well as the body work, and it's like knowing that if I'm an active observer of the mind, I don't have to bite everything that comes through my mind. And there's some, you know, when I think about, you know, I think it's so just important to share this, the darkest thoughts that go through my mind. You know, I have all of those thoughts too. Mm-hmm. You know, whether it's about sex, whether it's about hurting somebody. You know, when I'm hurt, I get visions of wanting to hurt somebody physically. Are you kidding? All the time. But it's like you don't act on it, but it's part of the human experience again, and being able to just observe the mind and not take everything so literally, you know, and not judge yourself. Because I think that's the piece too. So we're talking about, you know, coming out and sexuality and, you know, kids in schools and how they feel and different practices. It's like, we're all so used to judging ourselves. Why would we not be judging other people? You know, it has been ingrained in us to just beat ourselves with a hammer. I was on the phone the other day with another coach, and I was like having like a meltdown, and I was just like, she was like, I think you're trying to put too much pressure on yourself. And I was like, yeah, she's like, you could take a break. You know, you could take a break. And I think that taking a break from judgment and trying to figure things out and just really allowing ourselves to be would be really nice. And I say that not only to whatever or whomever I'm speaking to in this audience, but to myself out loud. You know, because I tend to, I'm very driven. I love to get things done, like true Scorpio in nature, just like, talk about like all of that energy, the sexual energy, the creative energy. I have it flowing in and through me all the time, but learning how to sit with that, channel it when needed, and then also just be.
Isn't
you know,
that a lifelong process of mastery?
Oh God. I was like, oh God. Yeah, it is.
I'm much the same. So yeah, much the same. I have so much energy. My best friend Emily, she always says to me, I'm never tired. I don't know why. I just never feel tired, even when I hardly get any sleep. I'm always creating something new, and it's always big. It's never something small. You know, I don't do a women's circle of 5 people, right? No, I do events of like 150 people. Okay, right? So I just don't do small. And there's always something going on. I'm always creating something. I've got the social media school. I'm doing this even. You know, here I am at 9 o'clock at night. It doesn't even feel like work, you know, to me. I wouldn't even call it work, but some people think this is work because I do social media, right? So it's like I never stop, but I don't actually feel as though I'm out of flow. I've just always got it. And then, you know, every now and then it speeds up even more. And I'm like, okay, now I need to come back to.
And that's the same. It's all of this, you know, I was on the couch a couple of days ago, and I was like looking out the window, and I was like, Oh, there's so much. It just moved me with emotion. I was like, there's so much to be birthed and so much to be created. And it moved me to tears. I was looking at a sunset and I was just like, thank you. There's so much to be done. And it just, I can't explain the moment to you, but it felt really beautiful. And so I do feel like there's a really big calling for me, you know, to be able to birth everything that I'm designed to into this world, while simultaneously not overworking myself to death, judging myself, putting immense amounts of pressure, and really being able to just be happy and have fun and create. And it doesn't, and that's the thing, when we're in flow, it doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like a job. It's fun. It's actually fun.
Totally. So. I mean, my biggest challenge is that I think sometimes I'm way too playful with serious things.
Okay.
Like I take the piss out of the spiritual community, like totally.
Wait, you guys take the piss too in Australia?
Yeah.
Oh shit! I'm like the only one. They say it here in in England as well. I was like, what is this? Take the piss? What does this mean? Like,
yeah. Oh, you know, have fun with. You know, during COVID, while everyone was like getting all upset, I was like, oh, man, this is getting way too heavy. I'm going to go create a fun game online. So I played Facebook Against Humanity and got all these influencers together to have these really inappropriate games.
I remember that.
Yeah, it was so good.
I remember that.
You know, so I think sometimes there is a balance. And, you know, I have this balance between raw and real, and then I go playful, and then sometimes people are sharing something really sacred with me and I make fun of it, and it's like wrong time, you know. So I do have that balance, but it's true, everything for me is like, where's the joy, where's the play, the lightheartedness. This world, it's going to be really real right now, this world is fucked.
Yeah,
you know, like, and I don't mean that in a disempowering negative way, right? I mean that in a real way. Like, we have a big problem. We have loads of problems. We have abuse.
So many.
Neglect. We have environmental. We have sustainability issues. We have overpopulation. We have medical. We have, you look at everything, like there's no, as many causes as there are people, right? It's fucked.
Yeah.
Right? People don't want to actually sit with that. Why would you want to sit with that? Because the impact of what's actually happening in the world is huge, right? And I've looked at this in all different ways. And I finally got to, it's not going to make any difference me sitting in how fucked it is. No. So I can be with that it is like that, right? And I can give you this situation, the actual things that have it be that way. But what I got to is, what the world needs is more joy in the face of it. Have this come from high vibration, create the joy, see what we could solve. This is all not going away, but what could we solve? And how could we solve it if we live in joy, if we find ways to create joy, be in joy, and expand joy, rather than be like, we need to fix this shit, it's fucked up, man, and get all negative about it.
Yeah, because it is what it is. And like, at the end of the day, I just, you know, when you were sharing it, brought up, last night I was watching a documentary. I don't watch TV often, but Gordon Ramsay is the man. Okay. I love Gordon Ramsay. Do you know who that is? The chef.
I think he's like the angriest, most real chef ever.
He is so real. Like, he's my people. Okay. He's real, but he's got a great heart. And he helps people and he shows up in service. So it's so beautiful. I was watching a program he did yesterday on, I know this is it's not off topic, but on shark finning. And it was absolutely the most heartbreaking thing that I've ever seen. Okay. Like, sharks being definned because people are making shark fin soup. Okay. And the way that they were killed. And I was just like, it brought me to tears. And I was just sitting there and I was like, I was just like disgraced that I was part of the human race for a minute. I was just like, what do we do? Like, why do we have to shit on every single resource that we possibly have? And I'm not saying I'm better than anyone else because I'm not perfect. Okay. Not putting myself on a pedestal. I'm not all green or anything like that. Okay. It's something that I aspire to do and be like, but the awareness that has to come for all of these things is just incredible. But again, what did he do? He made a documentary. He shared about it. He brought it to all of the restaurants in London. A majority of the top rated restaurants took that off their menu, and he managed to help to change some piece of legislation around it. Talk about using a platform for something good. Like, exactly. The guy doesn't have to give a fuck, but he's, you know what I mean? Like, there are ways to do things creatively, like create a documentary, create a show, come online. You have multiple TV shows, right? Different things that you do online. There's different ways to do things to pull people in, to have the awareness, because maybe somebody else can do what we're not able to.
Yeah, I completely agree. I call it don't get angry. It's not really angry. I think anger is actually an important part of change. It's a phase that we have to go through. It's like a massive stand for something. But so I wouldn't say don't get angry. It's something like resentful. Don't sit in resentment. Get vulnerable, because when you get vulnerable, you get access to creativity. And when you get access to creativity, you get access to change. Okay? So vulnerability is our access to creativity. It's being able to go, it's that this sucks and I feel helpless and I'm scared that this isn't going to change. And I know. And the moment that you open up your fear, and like someone said, surrender, right? When you surrender to that vulnerability of who, you know, how small you are, but also how fucking huge you are. Right? It's this little human that has human-y thoughts and human-y experiences and is scared of things and all of that. You open up to the creative, like what you know, Gordon Ramsay did. You get open to, this is not okay, but what's the solution?
Yeah. And that's the piece. We can actually provide creative solutions to many of the problems. And sometimes what I wanted to share with people, because it's in the nature of how we've been conditioned, is to stay small, although not within these communities again, but is to stay small, is really using your voice for things that matter to you. So that's why I got on this live, and I get emotional right now. I'm like, that's why I got on this live, because it's so important to me for people to know that it's okay to be themselves.
Yeah.
So when it comes to what I lead people to do, to find their own fucking voice, it's because we all have something that maybe we've kept to ourselves, or maybe some piece of us that we'd really like to express, that we'd really like to bring into the world, that we really want to share, that's on our heart, but we're afraid to. And that's okay. But do it anyway. You know what I'm saying? Just do it anyway. Just show up anyway. I had a whole bunch of fucking thoughts before I got on this. I'm like, why the fuck did you pick that topic? And it's like, well, it's near and dear to my heart. Because I didn't have a voice for a really long time. So therefore I lead other people to have it.
Yeah.
Because it's important for people to feel comfortable in their own fucking skin as best as they can throughout this journey, because it's not easy on its own, let alone when you're fucking, you know, judging yourself or afraid of the judgment or what other people are going to say or think about you. So thank you.
It's so beautiful. Thank you. You know, I just did my whole comedy act on being awkward. You know, we live in such an awkward society. It's so awkward. And you're right. Finding comfort in your own skin is so important. In the awkwardness, the arrogance, the twatness, all of it.
Oh.
Thank you so much. Hello, Lesby. Hello, Salvatore. Hello, Kerry, Doug. You're just jumping on. We're just finishing up. We had such a, you know, beautiful discussion. For anyone who's out there that's watching this from the LGBTIQ plus community, you are And if you know, there's so many things out there to support you in finding, as Alexis would say, finding your fucking voice and owning who you are, to the point where it gets to, like me, you even forget that it exists. It's not part of your identity anymore. It's just integrated into your being. You know, so if you need anything or you want to share this, please do. If you want to reach out, please do. Thank you so much for your sharing your story, Alexis. And to everyone who's on the live, thank you for tuning in. If you are replaying, #replay. And you've got a group called Find Your Fucking Voice. Is it right?
Absolutely.
So if you want to join Alexis on her, on her mission to really bring out the voice in others, go find her group, Find Your Fucking Voice. I think it's so funny. There's a lot of F-bombs in a lot of her content.
There is. I mean, listen, there's a lot of F-bombs in the way that I speak, and it's like, hello, wake up, people. Let's go.
Great.
I love you, Jess. Thank you.
Love you too. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, everyone who stayed on this whole time. Thank you, Leslie. And until next time, see you later. I'm still here.
Okay, I'm leaving.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, babe.
Thank you.
Thank you.